Okay. Yes, today's daf is Ayin Gimel. We left off with a kasha. What was the kasha? We're doing the sugya of taruvis. We have a shara niskol that's asa ba'ana, or one of the chamesh chater shemesais that's asa ba'ana, gets mixed in with 10,000 animals. Said yemusa kula. They all die. The Gemara asked a very, very basic question. The halacha is that midaraisa holchin acha haroiv. You go after roiv, acha rabin lahatais. So why don't we go after roiv? After all, we're going to kill every single animal. Go after roiv, and we'll say the majority of animals were kosher karbanis, and then if you go after roiv, after the majority, you'll be able to bring them rather than what kill them all. So we know that when it comes to taruvis and bittel, there's certain rules that don't apply. So we spoke about birya, and we said a shar niskel is not a birya, so there would apply. The Gemara decided that maybe perhaps it's chashivas. Something that's chashiv is not batel. By nature, something that's chashiv is not batel. Now, what makes something chashiv? It's something that's counted. It's something that's counted. If you count something, it's a raya that it's chashiv. Now, Davashe b'minyan, we have a machloikis. Does it have to sometimes be counted or always be counted? So now, a shor is sometimes counted. That's the given. A shor is sometimes counted. So if you hold that it's only something that's always counted, right? Right.
Like what?
What?
Like a shor.
Like a shor.
No, you said shor. Also, not always.
Right.
You know, sometimes.
Yeah. So something always counted. We saw the Rimoinim, Egoizim, the places we saw yesterday. We saw it yesterday that actually we didn't see it yesterday. We're going to see it today. Be'ez Hashem. No, we saw it yesterday. We saw it yesterday that right. We saw machloikis yesterday between Remeya and Rabbi Remeya and the Chachamim. The Chachamim say that what it's batel. Chachamim say that what that. The Chachamim say that you have chavili tilson, which is something that is always counted. The Chachamim say it's batel. Remeya says right. Remeya says that what you have to burn it. So Remeya is of the opinion. That something that's chashiv is not batel. Now, machloikus is between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish in Reb Meir. Rabbi Yochanan says chavili tilson is something that is always counted. So something that's always counted is chashiv. Something that's always counted is chashiv. And according to Reb Shimon ben Lakish, right, it's something that is sometimes counted. So we can understand, according to Reb Shimon ben Lakish, why it's not batel. Since sometimes it's counted, it's chashiv. Once it's chashiv, it's not batel. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, that it's specific items, things that are always counted, and a shor is not always counted, so let it be batel. Like Rabbi Yochanan, it should be batel. It's not chashiv. In other words, we're substantiating the kasha, right? That's what we left off with yesterday. We left off with that kasha that we left off with the kasha that like Rabbi Yochanan, who says in order to be chashiv, it has to be something that is always counted, and a shor is not always counted, so therefore a shor is not chashiv, therefore it should be batel. Why does the Mishnah say yemusu? That's the question we left off with. Good? That's the question. Okay. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Hai Tana, the Tana of our Mishnah is Tana the litra Ketsios. The Tana of our Mishnah is the Tana of litra Ketsios. Literally, a liter of Ketsios is cut figs. We know that they would go ahead and they would dry fruit. They didn't have refrigeration. To keep the fruit, they would dry the fruit. They would dry it out. Okay, and Yankel, there's a Gemara right here. Yankel, there's a Gemara right here next to the Stender. Should be a Gemara next to the Stender, right there, right next to the Stender. Mm-hmm. So they would go ahead and they would dry fig. Now the case under discussion is After they would dry the figs, fellas, they would push them in an eagle. They would push them in some type of mold. It's very interesting. When I was growing up, you had a string of figs that were ausgetricken. they they were they were they were dried out. They were mios. They were muktzamachmas mios. They were this. I mean, really, you. But if you saw a real fig, they're juicy. You have to watch for the worms, but they're juicy. But they would dry it out. So and it's funny because they were also circular. So they had a mold that they would put it in. Right? A gully devela. But this is a devela. Yeah. So now you have over here. You're going ahead, and you have these figs, and they're drying them out. And what happens? That the ktsiois is truma. In other words, let's say you have figs of truma, which is the rabbanan. Guys, it's always important to remember the only truma that's deraisa are the grains, olives, and grapes. The grains, olives, and grapes. Anything else is the rabbanan. So figs are the rabbanan because they're a fruit. Okay, so now, if figs would get mixed in with something, and it's a davar shebeminyan, right? Would it be bottle? If it's a davar shebeminyan, not. Good. So let's see the case over here. Amra Papa, hi Tana, the Tana of our Mishnah. Guys, what does it mean the Tana of the Mishnah? The Tana of our Mishnah who says that Isuri Hana is not bottle, right? Again, the kasha is, Yankel, let it be bottle. Let it be bottled. And Mida Raisa Achirab Lahatis, you're killing. It's amazing what you're doing over here. The Gemara, that's not even bottle. And what are you going to say? It's not bottle because it's choshev. Why would it be choshev? According to the man the Omar, that it has to be counted, right? So we're going to find the man the Omar, guys, that holds what? Even if it's sometimes counted, right? It's gonna be bottle, not be bottle. Amra Papa, hi Tana the literal see. So the Omar, Kol Dava Sheyesh by Minyan, anything that you count, right? Rashi, Kol Dava Sheyesh by Minyan, Kol Shedarkul Limanos, Klau. Keep going. Litroi Shel Katsiyos, the leader of cut figs, dried figs. Sheroiv b'nei Adam ein meichrim b'minyan. Most people do not sell it by the counting. Elidarson I say beigel. They take the figs and they push them into this mold. Umaycha kala igel yachad, and they sell the whole mold together. Hailupamim shemaynim halitrois levad lemoichrim b'minyan. Since what you count them, right? Sometimes you count them. Now, so what does he say? Kol davar sheish by minyan, afilu derabanan. So guys, over here, the litra katsiyas are derabanan dekatruma, and they're sometimes counted like a shar. And they're sometimes counted like a shar, right? Loy bottle, they're not bottle. The kosher came by the raisa. So guys, here's the teretz. Okay, first of all, we got the kasha. I'll repeat the kasha. We have the first case in the Mishnah. I'm just going to say one case. Isuri Shar Niskal gets mixed up with 10,000 Shvarim. They all die. You got to put them away and starve them to death. That's what you got to do. Fred the Gemara, Bittles deraisa. Achirab lahatos. Be mevatel the whole thing. Why couldn't you be mevatel the whole thing? Must because they're choshev. Oh, now, 1 second. If it's something that's always counted, it's choshev. But if it's something that is sometimes counted, there's a man the Amar who says that what? That it's not bottle. So that is bottle. Right? Like Rabbi Yochanan, it should be bottle. So what do we need? We need a man the Amar to tell us something that's not always counted, but sometimes counted, is not not bottle. We need that. I got it. I got the guy. What's the guy? The guy. The Tana of Litra Katsiyas. We're going to meet a Tana, fellas, in a second, that Tana is of the opinion, despite the fact that it's not always counted, it's not bottle. Now, this is the Rabbanon. If in a Derabanan Dika case you're going to say it's not bottle, certainly Shor HaNiskal, which is the Raisa, you're going to say it's not bottle. And that would be the Tana of our Mishnah. That would be the Teretz. The reason why they have to die and not bottle, because even though they're sometimes counted, we have a man the Omer who says sometimes counted is enough to chashivas not to be bottle, since sometimes it's counted. Who is that man the Omer? We're going to meet him in a second. Good, that's the teretz. You got the teretz. I feel the Rabbanon with Truma the Rabbanon, like bottle, the Kolsh came with the Raisa, and certainly what in Ishar Niskel, which is the Raisa. The Tanya, here's the Tana. Litra Ketsios Shedosin al Pi Eagle. You have a litra is an amount of cut figs that you're pressing into an eagle. And that happens to be what you're pressing in is truma. Now, guys, truma is bottle echad b'meya, 100 to 1. Not 60 to 1, 100 to 1. Eagle darsa. We don't know which one. Al pi chavius, we're putting into a barrel. It's not known to us. Be'ez chavius darsa. Al pi kaveres, a beehive. Be'ez kaveres darsa. Reb Meir Oimer, says Reb Meir, Reb Eliezer Oimer. Now, guys, it's interesting. We have a Tana explaining a Tana, a latter Tana explaining another Tana. We're going to have machloikis fellas between between Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Yeshua, and we're going to have machloikis between Reb Meir and Rebbe Yehuda. What is the machloikis between Reb Meir and Rebbe Eliezer?
But Trua Rabbanon has the same qualification of being a bittul?
Same thing. Same thing. Now, Reb Meir Oimer, Reb Eliezer Oimer, Reb Meir is explaining Reb Eliezer. Royines el yoinois, we view the tops, ki'ilu hein prudois, as if they're separate. V'hatachtonios malis es el yoinois, and the lower will come up and be mevatel the top. Now, fellas, outside, eye contact. This is the truma. The bottle is truma. This is a fig and this is a fig. This is truma. I know where it is. I know I have a bunch of barrels. I have a bunch of barrels. Do I go ahead and say every single barrel, top and bottom, is going to be mevatel this? Or since I know where it is, only tops can be mevatel it? That would make a lot of sense. In other words, I know for sure it's not in the bottom. I know for sure it's not in the bottom. I know it's in the top. So if I have 100 tops, I can understand. Rebbe Eliezer says a tremendous chiddush like Reb Meir. We'll view this as prudois if it's separate, meaning not on top. And even the bottom of every more barrel will come together to be mevatel it. So if I don't have 100 to 1 in the top, it'll still be bottle if I have the bottom. That's Rebbe Meir. That's Rebbe Meir's pshat and Rebbe Eliezer. Again, even though it doesn't make any sense because I know that bottom is what is not. So that's what he says. Rebbe Meir Oimer in Rebbe Eliezer. Royan esel yoinos will view the top where the truma is. Kilein prudos if they're separate. V'atachtonius and the bottom where I know it's not truma. Milas el yoinos will go ahead and be mevatel it. Rabbi Yeshua Oimer im yesh meya pumim. If in the top you got 100, yalu, then what? It'll be bottle. V'im lav hapumim asurim. If you don't have 100 in the pumim, then if you don't have it, hapumim asurim v'ashulayim mutarim. Guys, this is going to be it's all tops will be asa, but bottoms will be muta. So right now we have just a machloikis between Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Yeshua. According to Rebbe Meir, guys? This is not part of our teretz. This is in bittul. In other words, according to them, you could be mevatel it. According to them, bittul shaykh. The question is, which part of the figs can you combine to add up to 100 to 1 ratio? Says Reb Meir in Rebbe Eliezer, the whole kit and caboodle. Says Rebbe Yeshua, only the tops. Guys, you good? Again, we don't need this. We don't need this. Again, we need where it's not bittul. According to these, machloikis is how the bittul works, but it's shaykh bittul. Here's what we need. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, im yesham kuf pumim, yalu, if you have 100 in the tops, v'im lav hapumim asurim, and the shalayim will be muta. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda's pshat in Rabbi Eliezer is the same pshat of Meir and Rabbi Yeshua. That what? That the bittel's only the tops and not the bottoms. Here's what we need. Rabbi Yeshua Oimer, afilu yesham shloisha meyas pumim, even if you have a ratio of 300 to 1 in the tops, lo yala. It's not going to go ahead. It's not going to go up. Right? It's not going to go up. This is the sheet that we need, guys. Why? Pashtus, because he holds, since it's a Davar Sheba Minyan, it's not Batal. So the Tana of our Mishnah is Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Guys, you hear? This is the Tana literature. Guys, you have it? Look, listen what he said. Here's what he said. In other words, since it's a dava that some people count, you'll never be able to mevatel it. That's what we need, fellas. A shor is something some people count, and therefore you can't be mevatel it. That's what we needed. We needed a reason. Why is no bittul? The Tana of our Mishnah is Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that something that's counted, even though it's not always counted. But like a Rishar, it's not always counted. We spoke out yesterday, you sell herds or, right? People are not makbid in calves. So therefore, we have a Mandi Omar. This is the answer. This is the Mandi Omar. Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yehuda. This will be the text. Not a suffix, not a suffix. It's not a suffix. We know it's there.
You know it's there, but even though, but only some people count it separately.
Suffix would be if you don't know. Here we know it's there.
And people sometimes they sell it separately.
So that's what we need. Because yesterday's that. We need something. I know. I know. Yeah, good reason. Kvena Zaida. Baruch Hashem. Mazel yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
You look though. I really give it a shimmer shan, right?
We need a man the Omar that even though it's not always counted, it's not bottle. That's what we need because the Mishnah says it's not bottle. So this Tana of literature could see is the Rabbanan, certainly by Shara Niskos, the Raisa. That's the Mandi Omar. That's the Mandi Omar. You set up, guys. You set up. The Mishnah, the Brisa continues. Okay. Darsa be'igel v'eni yadeh be'ezim makam be'igel darsa. You don't know where exactly. It's fine in the north or the Joima. Tivya kol yalu. Everyone will hold what yalu, but you don't need this. So we have a teretz to kasha. Okay. What was like kasha? That's me mevatel beroiv. After all, it's the Raisa. And for the Gemara, it's chashiv. For the Gemara, why is it chashiv? Because you count it. Says the Gemara, you don't always count it. Says the Gemara. So we need a mandiyama that even though it's not always counted, but sometimes counted, we found that mandiyama, litra katsiyas, Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yehuda. That's one teretz. Now Rashi says no. I feel a tamer rabbanon. You can even say the rabbanon. In other words, you don't have to say it's according to one mandiyama, according to Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yehuda. You could say even according to the rabbanon. Balichayim chashiviv lebatli. Balichayim achoshev in the napato. In other words, forget minyan, forget beria. Balichayim achoshev. The achoshev thing. Since it's choshev, it's not bato. The mela, your musu, you got to kill them all. You got to kill them all. Guys, we're good so far. Okay, now we're good so far. We have two terutzim, right? What kasha was why isn't it bato? Two terutzim, either according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Yeshua. Anything that's counted, even some things that are counted, it's chashiv. Or Rabbi Yehuda says Balichayim, says Rashi, Balichayim are. So the teretz is it's chashiv. Since it's chashiv, you can't be mevatel. That's the teretz. Good. Now we know a very, very famous Gemara. Guys, it's very famous. You got 10 butcher shops in the city. 9 butcher shops are selling kosher meat. 1 butcher shop is selling treifa meat, right? You find meat in the street. It's like called the parish, Maruba parish, you're going to go after Rav. Yeah? Okay? So now, l'chayra, we could use that. Now, this has nothing to do with chashivas. This is a different Rav. Guys, it's important. There are different Ravs. Guys, listen up. The Rav we just discussed is Rav of Bittel, majority Mevatel. There's a Rav where we identify it by the Rav. Over here, we know there was a Sharon Iskel there. The Shiler is, do you have enough to mevatel it? Here's another Rav. What does this meat? I'm identifying it. That's a different Rav. You guys, there's other Ravs. Rev Meir is Chayish Lamayuta. Most people not Swisim. Most people not islanders, right? This is a different Rav. Okay, so good. I got you. It's Choshev. It can be ganz Choshev. But I got another problem. I can save this. Take an animal, pull it out, pull the parish from Ruba parish, right? I'll take out one animal at a time. It goes after the Rav. I won't have to kill them. I'll say it's kosher animals. Yeah. I thought once the Mevatel Issa is only Darbanim. It's not being Mevatel Issa. It's not being Mevatel Issa. You don't know where the Issa is. Mevatel Issa when you know Vaday is. Okay, guys, you hear? Now, what's the teretz? If you go into the butcher stop and you walk out in the meat and you're not sure which one you went into, it's called kavua al mechza kemechza. If the suffix came in a makom kavua, right, then it's kemechza al mechza. So it says the Gemara Kash. Very Gemara Londish Kasha. V'nimshach v'nakruv chad minayu. Chad minayu. One at a time. V'nema kol de parish meruba parish, and say everything that separates came from the majority. Majority is animals were kachim. Were kachim. They weren't the shari niskal. So majority animals you could eat. Says the Gemara. Nimshach, pulling it out, havile kavua. If you pull it out, it's kavua. In other words, it's mashma, you're taking out one at a time. You can't do that. The is is from a makom kavua, and therefore, Rashi brings the source for makom kavua. It's very interesting, fellas. You have 10 goyim. You have 9 Jews and 1 goy in a pile. You take a rock, you throw it in there, and you kill some. Pata. Because we'll say kol kavua kemersa matzah. Right? We'll say that since the suffix was in a makom kavua, it will say what? Kemersa mersa dami. So memela over here, what are you doing? Nimshach havle kavua mibeis. The kol kavua, and any time it arises from a kavua, it's kemersa mersa dami. Ella, you know what we should do? Nach b'shinu, force them to begin moving, denaidi, and take out one at a time. And the name of called the parish, Meruba parish, right? In other words, now l'chayra by them moving no longer is kavua, and therefore we'd say kol kavua k'metzah mechza. So why you musu? So in other words, using another roiv, I can go ahead and save a lot of animals. Why are you saying kuli and musu? So good, al spittle, it doesn't work because of chashivas, but forget bittul, al roiv, creating the majority. Right, I can do that by using the halacha. Anything that's parish, that separates from the majority, is meruba parish. It separates from the majority. How could I do that? Ayat kavua. Get them moving. If they're moving, then you can schlep out one at a time as they're moving, and then it's what? It's not a makom kavua. And then l'chari, you should be able to have an eitzah taiva to go ahead and eat the animals. Amarava gezera shema yavoy yud kahanim bivas achas v'yakrivu. This is a gezera. 10 kahanim are going to come at once and be makriv of them. Says Rashi. 3 lines down.
You couldn't eat all of them. I mean,
So
you had
no, but
one of them couldn't. One of them
yeah. There's always a shiloh. You have to leave over one, or I can say I could say each one because I could say the other one was the Issa went. We're going to see that svara. Now, Kesal Kedaita Hashta. Right? Here's the Havamina now. We're chayish that maybe after you take them one at a time, at sheshachto yud v'heim roiv. So guys, roiv. Let's say there's 19 animals and you took 10. That's you took out roiv. V'heim roiv. Yavo yud kahanim. Yud kahanim are going to come. V'yiskruk demehem. They'll do zrika. V'yaktiru imurehem, and they'll burn the imurim ke'echad at once. V'efshel tzamsem, that's possible to do. V'hashta deshtakech the korev ruba bevasachas, that they brought korev, they were makriv roiv at the same time. Again, 10 is the majority of 19. V'ikal amechish isur beruba isya, and we'd be chayish that what they did was in the roiv. The bishlema when kimasha chad makriv kama one at a time. Ikla mema the chol chad the korev, the chol chad the korev, the meruba parish, the isura na bahani the paishihu the havi ruva gabe. In other words, if you take one at a time, I'll say the roiv tells me it's kosher, and the one that's asa I left in the remainder. But if you take the roiv, you're taking 10, then you can't say I left it. Guys, I took 10, I left 9. You can't say if you take it one at a time, you're never taking the roiv. But if you're going to take the roiv, so I'm chayish that what? I'm going to go ahead and be makriv the issa. Aval hashtu de karvi ki adodi, fellas. Now that you're being makiv simultaneously, lehavi hani de paishi ruba legabayu. I'll speak it out again. What are we worried about? This is what apparently we're worried. Now, this is a havamina, guys. It's a havamina. And I'll tell you what's wrong with the havamina in a second. Using the svara of kol de parish meruba parish, here's the way it would work. I'm moving the animals. One separates. The Roiv says the one that's us is there. I'm akriv this one. Next one. One at a time, I'm going to say the one that's us remains in the majority. What happens if I take the majority at once? And I take them and I'm being makriv them. Yeah? Now I can't say it remains over there because I took rov. So really, be'emes kol de parish meruba parish should work. But there's a gezerah where you might do something that will make it not work, right? You'll take the roiv and you'll bring the roiv at the same time. Okay, why is this just a havamina? It sounds like a very good, right? Guys, each time you take one, what's the status of this animal? It's a carbon. So now you're going to tell me if I took out 9, they're all good. If I take out 10, the other 9 retroactively are not going to be what kovanis? You hear?
Does it make a difference if you took them literally all at the same time?
You know, that's not called the parish. That's called the parish. Meruba parish is one at a time. You're taking it one at a time. So that's the problem. Once it got the status of a heta, once it got the status of a heta, right? You can't. How can you go ahead and tell me now it's going to be asa? That's the problem with this. Says the Gemara. Amalei Ahum Rabbanon L'Rava, who gave this teretz. Atu, change the gersa. Atu me'ata mekisa asira? Is it now megisa? Akisa, they used to put a plate, and they'd have the murim in a plate. You tell me now it's asa? How could that be? It doesn't make any sense, right? Once it was heta, it was heta. So here's the answer. Mishum shema yavo yud kahanim bivas achas v'yikchu ba'asaras kahanim bivas achas. You're worried that what? You're going to take 10 at a time simultaneously and bring it. Right? That's what you're worried about. So in other words, I'm not worried about one at a time. This is what Rabbi Avi was saying. You took 10 at once. You took 10 at once, so you don't have that each one being heta, right? Fred the Gemara, 1 second. Mi efsha? Is that possible? Is that possible? What do you mean? In other words, bishlema to bring it at the same time, it's possibly mitzamsem. But to take them at the same time, they're moving. You're going to say each one chapped it? The animal's running around. It's dreisach here and there. You're not going to be able to do it. So that can't be the gezerah. So Taka, back to the question. Why don't we go ahead, move them, take them one, and you be good? El Amarava, Mishum Kavua. It's the gezerah Mishum Kavua. In other words, fellas, you're right. You could do it. But if we allow you to do it when you're moving, you may come to do it when it's not moving. And then you don't have, then it's mechsa al mechsa. So comes out, listen to this, fellas. Go back, guys, look at this. Go back to the Mishnah. Go back to the Mishnah. Ayin amid beis. Ayin amid beis. Kol azvachim. Shenis arvu b'chatois ha-meisais. Pirish. One chatos ha-meisais, oy shar niskul, or one shar niskul, got mixed up. Afilu achas beriboy. Even one of them in 10,000 animals, yamusu, they all die. You know why? Because you don't have the eitzah of moving them, because if you give that eitzah to move them, which would work, we're worried you may do it when they're not moving, and that's what, you don't have the roiv, it's called kavua. That's the maskana, guys. That's the maskana. It's amazing. I have the sefer from the Chavetz Chaim, the Kutei Halachos. What the Chavetz Chaim did was he made like a riff on. He brings down this whole Gemara, and then he says just in one line, Gezerah Shema Kvua. That's the bottom line. It's crazy. You learn the Mishnah. You hear this? The whole reason that you got to kill them all, Gezerah Shema. Unbelievable. Okay. New Gemara. Amarava. So that's the reason. Right, guys. That's the reason Rive does. That's the reason Rive doesn't work. In other words, Rive doesn't work as Chashivas, that type of Rive. But the second type of Rive of Kol the Parish, Meruba Parish doesn't work. Gezerah, maybe you come to do it with Kavua. Amarava. Hashta Yam Rabbanon loy nakriv. Now that the Chachamim told us, don't bring him as a carbon. Im nakriv, if you do, loy meratza. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Now, fellas, in Svara, you would say the following. I got 10,000 animals over here. If I take one, the chances are of going after Roy, but you can't go after Roy because Hashivas. But you know what I could say? That one that I took was the not good one, was the shar. And everyone I brought afterwards, good. It's not a good, it's not, I don't have to kill them, but it'll be a good carbon. In other words, if I ask, they're going to tell me to kill them. But what happens if I don't ask? What happens if I bring it? Says Rava, no good. Says Rava, no good. Even though it's got to be good. If you bring two, it's got to be good, one of them, right? It's got to be good, one of them. You bring two. One's got to be good. So says Rava, since we're saying that what, you shouldn't do it, if you do it, loy miratza. If you do it, it's not going to be miratza. It's not going to be miratza. That's Rava's thing. Eisei Rav Huna bar Yudel Rava. Now we had this before. You're speaking about guys. You have oifis. You have a kan. One is the chatas, one's an oila. The chatas goes below the chutas sikra, and the oila goes above the chutas sikra. Right? If they get mixed up together, chatas shnis arva beoila, oila shnis arva bechatas. Afilu achas beribo yamusu. Even 1 in 10,000, you're going to kill them all. Yamusu kulam. You can't be makriv of them. You know why? Because maybe you're going to get in the wrong spot. So you got to kill them. Now, if the kohen would ask, then you kill him. If he doesn't ask, now, if he puts all of them above like an oila, mechza kasha, half is kasha, or mechza pasal, you're going to have to make up the chatas. Lemata, if he brings it below like a chatas, mechza kasha, or mechza pasal. Good? Achas lamata v'achas lamayla shnei psulim. Shani oimer chatas kreva lamayla v'oila kreva lamata. Bottom line is, guys, it's a tiyuf don Rava. Because what do you see? You shouldn't bring him in the first place. And it says if they get mixed up, kula yamusu like our Mishnah. But what happens if you bring half all above? Half is good. All below, half is good. According to Rava, nothing's good. According to Rava, it shouldn't be Meratza, because again, once Kuli Yamusu, there's Kuli Yamusu over here, Kuli Yamusu in our Mishnah. Rava's saying in our Mishnah that what? He said that what? That doesn't count. You see a Mefurish Mishnah, and Rava can't argue in a Mishnah. The Mishnah in Kingdom says if you bring all above or all below, it does count. That's the Kashan Rava. And for the Gemara, Eloha Kimanda Amar, Bali Chaim Nidachim. Rava said his din, according to Mandi Amar, that Bali Chaim Nidachim, the Mishnah in Kingdom, Command Amar Bali Chaim Nidachim. All right, guys, outside. We've met Dachui many times, yes? We met Dachui many times. 3 shitas. You have Ser Lazazel, Ser Lashem. One of them dies. You have one that's alive. If you hold Bali the Chaim Nidachin, you're going to have to do a whole new Gairel. If you hold Bali the Chaim Nidachin, you just bring another one. You shecht it. It's dead. There's a man who says it's nitcha, and you bring a new. There's a man who also holds there's no such thing as dachui. Let's say, guys, you shechted the l'shem, you have it in the kais, right? You have it in the kais, and the azazel drops dead. Ein dachui gadol mizeh. Guess what? Bring another that, and you can still use that kais. So it's 3 man yama. There's Rabbi Yehuda who says Bali Chayim Nidachim. Mandi Amma says Bali Chayim ain't Nidachim, but Shchut is Nidachim. And Mandi Amma even says what? Even if you're holding by the, even that there's no Dicha at all. Okay, so now Rava, who said his din, holds Bali Chayim Nidachim. Memela in our Mishnah, guys. Memela in our Mishnah, if you bring it, it doesn't count because it's Nidche. Bali Chayim Nidachim. By the way, the Chafetz Chaim says we don't pass him like this. We pass him Bali Chaim and Nidachim, so we pass him like Rava. In the Likkutei, he brings down. We don't pass him like that. So he holds. If you shouldn't bring it, but if you do, it counts. The Mishnah in Kinim is like the Mandi Yama Bali Chaim and Nidachim. Yeah, Mishnah Kinim Bali Chaim and Nidachim. Okay, so you have a teretz, guys. You have a teretz. Okay, now we're going to ask a kasha. Everyone holds l'chayra. Most people hold shchutim are nidachim. So watch, here's your kasha. Says the Gemara. Hari shchutin l'kuli alma nidachim. According to most opinions, l'kuli alma, we'll see in a second, not like that. L'kuli alma, that they are nitcha. V'tanan, let's say, guys, you have a balmum that got mixed up with other oilers. It got mixed up with other karbanis, okay? It's a balmum. Don't bring it, because you may bring the balmum. Rebbe Lezer Omer, imkov ha-roish shelecha mehem, if you mark with the roish in one of them, yakrivu kol ha-roshin. You can go ahead and do all of them. Now, over here, if everyone holds Bali Chaim Midachim, right? Guys. Everyone holds Bali Chaim Midachim, yeah? So you really should not, you got a Baal moment others. You shouldn't bring it. What happens if you bring one? What happens if you bring the Rosh? You know what the halach is according to Rabbi Eliezer? Bring all the rest. 1 second. Rava, you see Nidachim, and still you're bringing it. Everyone else, it's Geshachten already. Geshachten, we do hold Nidachim. And nonetheless, Rabbi Eliezer says you shouldn't bring it. But if you bring it, you can bring the rest. So how can you, Rava, say that what? That you can't bring it? Because over here, so that's not a good svara of Nidachim. And for the Gemara, Rabbi Lazar, who the Amakachanana Mitzri, Rabbi Lazar, he doesn't hold the Dachay at all. The Amakachanana Mitzri, the Tanya Chanana Mitzri Yomer, Afilu Dam Bekois. If the Azazel dies and you have the Dam in the Kois, maybe Chaveroi, just bring Chaveroi, Umazavigloi, and you go ahead, what, and connect it to him. So in other words, Ein Achinami, says Rava, Bali Chaim is Nidachim. And that's why I hold that you can't bring anything. Rabbi Eliezer says over here you could bring. That's Mandiyama. It holds, you don't hold Dachi at all. Rabbi Eliezer, since you don't hold the Dachi at all, the merely you could bring it. Okay.
For sure.
For sure.